So speaking of stakeholders, I'd like to introduce you all to our keynote panelists who will be speaking about the power of proximate leadership. This is a keynote that is particularly important to me as I've spent the last almost 10 years designing and managing the Speak Up initiative at the Corporation for Supportive Housing. Speak Up empowers individuals impacted by homelessness to change the dominant narrative that misrepresents and stigmatizes their experiences. Speak Up supports participants to shift this narrative by telling their own stories of housing and its fundamental connection to their capacity to thrive. I'm one that really believes strongly in engaging with the individuals with lived experience. I love to foster collaborative partnerships between those receiving and those providing services, and really trying to dismantle that oppressive power dynamic that hinders necessary connection and healing. So I'm really excited to moderate this discussion to highlight the voices of people from affected communities which experience high rates of housing and economic insecurity. Each speaker will share their own lived experience of homelessness with a companion animal, or of being an ally and liaison to this community, much like myself, and the importance of recognizing lived experience as expertise in its own right. Please welcome Dorothy Edwards, MARILOU, CHANRASMI, and Sterling Davis. I'd like to give you each an opportunity to share with us a little about yourself and your work before the full panel discussion begins. Starting with Dorothy. Dorothy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, including your current role and how you ended up where you are today?
Yes, hi everybody. And Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing that. Such a compelling story. I swear I was over here just, I'm not crying. It was beautiful, and thank you. So hi everybody, my name is Dorothy Edwards, and I work for Housing Works of California as an Enrichment Services Coordinator. I work in a 54 unit supportive housing building, and I do groups and, animal care, self-care, money management, whatever it is that you need to know something about, I'll get somebody in there to school you on it. I'm formerly homeless. I was homeless for 15 months. Then I got my dog Gunner, and then because I was scared out there, and then I had Gunner for 11 years. But now I also serve on the board of directors at Corporation for Supportive Housing. And it's just a crazy story to go from living on the side of the freeway to the corporate boardroom in New York City. It's very, very empowering. Thank you.
Dorothy, can you talk a little bit about your experience of homelessness and how you came to be part of the Speak Up community?
Sure. So I became homeless because of domestic violence. And so the first 15 months I was out there, I was running and hiding from my abuser. Finally, I got my dog, and I could sleep at night. I was protected. He taught me so much. I got it together. They came and they found me sleeping at the Goodwill, and they did an interview with me, and they found me a home. And I've been here in May will be 10 years. And so in the meantime, as soon as I got housed, I was a really hardcore drug addict. And so that story Stephanie told about the meth and all that, I could totally relate to that, and about giving up out there, because there was a time where I left my dog with somebody, and all I wanted was $1.25 to get to the bridge. And that was it, a one-way bus ticket. And there was a woman who stopped me, and she said to me, well, what is it that makes you happy in life? And I said, my dog Gunner. She goes, well, live for him. And all this time has went by, and I never really delved into our conversation that we had, back then. But when I left there, I promised her I would go get help, which I did. And so it saved my life. So when they found me, they got me a house, and I almost got evicted, but they worked with me getting my house with my dog, because they knew that I was not going to leave my dog anywhere out there without, if I couldn't bring my dog, I wasn't going to get a house. That's all there was to it. My dog ate before me. He did everything. He was the most loyal friend I ever had. So I get housed, and I was still using, and got an eviction notice because of all the traffic. And then my case manager said, can you go, do you want to go into a program? Finally, I did. I didn't last. And then I went into an outpatient, and that's the first thing that I ever graduated. And in the meantime, I went through to CSH Speak Up, and that's the second thing I ever graduated, and second thing I ever finished in my whole life. And that was just such a powerful, empowering feeling for me, that, oh my God, I'm stepping out of this life that I have, and I'm moving up, and I'm stepping and stepping and stepping. And so CSH Speak Up has basically carried me from infancy into this beautiful, full new life that I have today. And I'm forever grateful. We speak on local, state, federal levels to lawmakers, policymakers. We speak on behalf of the unhoused, and incarceration and all that goes with being unhoused. And so we fight for a change. And it's such a beautiful family that we have at CSH. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dorothy. We're so glad you're here. MARILOU, would you like to introduce yourself next, and how you arrived at this place of allyship to tribal communities?
Sure, thank you. So I'm MARILOU. I'll be honest, I was, the story that was shared at the beginning was kind of like a reminder for me. I was thinking, all right, I'm going to go in this direction. I have a very sick pup, who is, I was going to try to set that aside, and then, but I'm essentially a very sick pup who was, and then I realized that that's the message for me, to go in the direction of how I have been, which actually will tie directly to how I've been doing my work with Indigenous communities. So I wasn't raised in the United States, and my father died when I was 4, also a survivor of sexual abuse as a child. I think my father knew that I didn't trust human beings. And so he sent me my first dog, 33 years ago. And I'm a recovering alcoholic. 33 years ago also, I should not have survived a suicide attempt. And it was my dog. It was literally my dog that saved my life, that got me sober. And coming to the United States when I was 16 years old, not being white, not learning American history, learning American history from white man's perspective, I assimilated. I assimilated to a culture, a way of being, in order to survive here. And then again, my work with animals, into my introduction to animal welfare, all in a volunteer capacity. I just recently joined CARE, which I'm incredibly grateful, Companion on Animals for Reform and Equity. But in 2008, it was a dog that led me to Red Lake Nation here in Minnesota. And that began my work with tribal communities. And I did not even know about reservations. I did not even know about and I remember in my early years of working with one of the tribal nations here in Minnesota, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm doing all this great work, I was trying to bring in this education program and talk to my friend who was an elder, gave her the flyer, and we were going to be doing an event around, dog obedience and dog training. And it was, targeting kids, trying to bring kids in. And I thought, this is a great thing, right? We want to work just with the youth. She picked up the flyer, she looked at me, and this is something in our culture, you never want an elder to shake their head at you. The elder shook her head, and my heart just stopped. And she said, you can't do this. And we had already developed a relationship, which I'm grateful. And she said, they came and took our children away. She said, you can't do this. And that began for me my journey into wanting to learn, because I had no idea about boarding schools. I had no idea about what my beloved friends in Indigenous communities had to endure. And so that began my journey. Some deep friendships, my commitment, that community will always come first. I have made a lot of mistakes. I've had elders shaking their head at me, lifting me up. And so there is so much wisdom within the community. To me, I think the message I want to share is that I'm not Indigenous, yet, it's taken me many, many years, but there's just a certain way for many organizations wanting to work with Indigenous communities. You can do it. There's just a way of being, humility. The seven grandfather teachings of the Anishinaabe people is something I also live by. And so that is what brought me to my work and honestly, my lifelong commitment. And I'm so grateful to be a part of CARE now, that allows me to take my work with Indigenous communities to a much, much larger scale. So I had not planned on sharing that, but my pup being incredibly sick now, and the story this morning is like, that's the way I need to introduce myself to this work. So thank you. And then if I might, for everybody, since I've got I don't know how many people, please, positive energy and prayers to my pup Nigazi, which means eagle in Ojibwe. So thank you.
Oh, MARILOU, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I think it's, really a testament to what, a lot of the work that we're trying to do in creating community between disparate, sectors and silos, and trying to come together, to collaborate around the things that are important. We have to be willing, in a way, to be our full selves, be vulnerable, and, talk about the stuff. I just think, things are changing in that way. And I applaud you, and I appreciate you for bringing your full heart to this discussion. And I'm sure everyone is going to be sending so much healing energy for you, Emigizzi. So thank you. Sterling, it's great to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about your history and how you came to be who you are today?
Hello, how y'all doing? Can everybody hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay, it's great to be here. Thank you, Dorothy and MARILOU. I also work with the CARE organization, Companions and Animals for Reform and Equity. I did not know about MARILOU's pup until just now, so I am sorry to hear that. And you are amazingly strong, as I've told you before, so thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming out and being here. My name is Sterling Davis. I go by Trapking. From my organization, Trapking Humane Cat Solutions. We focus on TNR, which is trap, neuter, return. It's the humane alternative for death and euthanasia for stray and feral cat populations. I got into that, and it's amazing. And every time I hear the stories of other people in animal rescue and welfare and what they went through to get to this point, it's amazing, because a lot of it is similar in the sense with me. I grew up in an abusive household and homeless. I mean, it started off from just moving from hotel to being evicted here, to being evicted there. And we would be out on the streets a lot. A lot of what I experienced as being homeless was actually just on my own without animals. A lot of the abuse and everything that I went through when I got older and I started working, and I didn't even work in rescue then. I just had a pet. I started getting pets because it seemed like it was a good thing to do for my therapy, for my help. And a lot of people in animal welfare and rescue, they'll tell you that's usually the animals, they go to that. Like if you've been in AA or NA or anything, they tell you need to sponsor somebody else and go to that. So a lot of times with trauma and abuse at an early age, we go to animals or pets. And when I got my pet, I didn't adopt, I shopped. um I had my pet declawed, and me and my cat Rick James went through a lot of stuff. I learned a lot with him, but not only did I learn more about myself and it helped me as far as my journey, but it brought me to this journey to help the homeless pets as well. I saw a lot of people that was going through what I had been through younger, not just by themselves, but with them pets. And I wanted to spread the message. I wanted to make sure that people were more into adopting instead of shopping, that they weren't declawing their animals. And I could see that a lot of the things that I had went through, a lot of other animals and other people were going through. So I started working with an organization, holistic transitional housing, called Perkinson House in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was solely for that, for helping. It was transitional housing for homeless people as well as their pets. Um, that situation, we weren't able to do as much as we wanted with that, but I haven't stopped the mission since. And that's why I'm here now with all of you, because it's something that's near and dear to my heart, not just because of the homeless animals that I work with doing TNR, but because that's where I come from. That's where me and my family come from. Uh, it's been a struggle. So I want to not only be able to help the people, but as well as the animals. And just like Kara would say, it's about human and animal welfare. So thank y'all.
Thanks so much, Sterling. So I have some questions that I want to put to all of you, and whoever wants to answer can. Why is proximate leadership, or leadership who have from people who have lived experience, so important in terms of making change?
I can I can go.
Mhm.
I think it's important, as and I've said this before, in any environment, the ones that thrive the best or do the most are the diverse ones. So you want to have representation across the board. It's better for the people involved. It's better for the animals involved. Every area doesn't look the same. And one of the things that I learned about with what I did when I started doing TNR and cat rescue was just bridging that gap. You saw you didn't have as many leaders or as much diversity, and regardless of how people feel, it was hurtful for the animals because there were certain areas we couldn't get to. So I think it's important for representation and actually helping to actually help fix these issues that we have. We need everybody involved. One of the things that I learned in the military is that you are only as strong as your weakest link. So it's important to have representation and lift up people and make sure that we're doing that on all levels.
Absolutely.
Could I hop in there?
Please.
Yeah. So, I think it's important because out in the homeless world, when you're traveling around with your dog or your cat, nobody lets you, even though I live in a very pet friendly city, there's no place that your dog can go in with you. You can't, so I know that at Union Station Homeless Services here in Pasadena, they will pay, like if you have to go into a recovery program, they will pay for the board and care for your pet at the Humane Society, which I think is fantastic. But I don't really like humane societies myself. I think it's better to have a foster because it's just so much more loving. But it's important because, you know, there's just not any place that you can go with your dog. I never went into shelters. My dog would wait outside me in the grocery stores. I remember I put glasses on my dog. I mean, I put glasses on me like I couldn't see. Like my dog was a seeing eye dog, so I could get on the train. And the train went about 100 feet, and the guy saw that I wasn't blind, I guess. And he stopped the train. He said, "You with the dog, you got to get off." And so, you know, just stuff like that. It's important that there's a place for your companion animals out there alongside you.
Thanks, Dorothy. Yeah, and I think that, you know, from someone myself who's worked in, you know, both as a direct service provider and also where I work now, and essentially, you know, training and technical assistance and capacity building. If people that are doing this work, policymakers and all of that, you know, it's great to pass laws and to make those kinds of changes. But if you don't really understand how the on the ground impact rolls out, it really is, you know, there can be a lot of unintended consequences, and you can in fact miss so many things that might be obvious once you hear them. I know I've heard many things from folks I've worked with that upon, you know, reflection should have been completely obvious, but because I didn't have that experience, it just never would have occurred to me, right? So yeah. Did you want to answer the question, Marlu?
I'd love to chime in on proximate leadership, because to me, there is already so much wisdom within the community that is happening. And, you know, James Evans, the CEO of CARE, says it beautifully. And it's like, we're amplifying the narratives, but it's like the work is already being done. We're just pulling the curtains back. And, you know, and I think that too often, I can only speak because my experience has been more in the animal welfare world, but it's, you know, I was one of the very, very few, in fact, to my knowledge, like one of the very few BIPOC, if only BIPOC, in the almost 15 years that I've been doing this work here in Minnesota. And, you know, it's important to be able to highlight the narrative. And it's also, you know, to be able not to come in and like rescue, you know, and kind of like we're coming in and we know what you're supposed to do. And this is how we're going to save you, you know, and, you know, we're going to tell the story in a way that benefits us in such a way that the poor animals being neglected or all of this so that we can raise money, you know, and it's just, you know, I always ask, like, who is, you know, when you're going to write a story, if you're working with, you know, now I'm very, very protective, honestly, of the Indigenous communities I work with here in Minnesota, you know, is who's telling the story, you know, who's benefiting from the story. You know, very often it's white people, you know, telling the story. And it's like, you need to have the community telling the story. You know, and I said, so there's like a reframing, and I speak from the world that I've had experience in, which is more on the animal welfare side, which I've actually left, and I love that CARE is animal and human well-being, because to me it isn't. You know, and I think in any working with any marginalized community, you know, I think we really need to reframe, you know, how we approach and how we work, and trust that there is so much wisdom within the community. How do we, and it takes trust and relationships. And I said this in one of a presentation I gave years back when they were asking, how do I work with Indigenous or tribal communities? I said, be like a bamboo. I said, that wasn't like, be like a bamboo, you know, which is essentially, you're going to plant the bamboo, the seeds are there, and it might take 5 years, but you're nurturing the soil. It's like, and then when you've earned the trust, then it sprouts. It can shoot like 100 feet out. You know, so I said, be like a bamboo. And it's really about building true, authentic, deep relationships.
Could not agree more. I mean, I mean, I'm sure it's true with any marginalized community. I feel like hearing that around the work you're doing with Indigenous folks just so resonates for me, working as an ally with folks who have experienced homelessness. There's something that people just don't understand, that there is so much distrust, well-founded distrust from marginalized communities, that you know, in order to really move towards any kind of solution, it takes time. You have to build trust, you have to earn trust, because trust has been lost. And so really great points.
I think I'm gonna steal that. Be like a
Yep.
bamboo. I might have to take that one, Mary Lou. I don't know. That was somebody tell you that I said it. Just go along with it. That was awesome.
Yeah. Sterling, do you want to talk a little bit about the boundaries, the barriers that you're breaking in your quest as a person, a man, and gender boundaries, race boundaries, all of that stuff? I think that's super important. And anybody, hopefully, we're going to be dropping links in the chat to all these different things that folks are talking about, but Sterling has some incredible stuff on his website, and the CARE website also has incredible stuff. Go ahead, Sterling.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, on the CARE website, the Trapking website, a lot of that's the reason I got started, was to bridge the gap between Black and brown communities and the animal rescue community. When I didn't know that, I knew I was the weird one of my friends, but I didn't know that everywhere it was just unheard of for a Black man, to be into cats and the rescue. Like, even now, I still have some friends that's like, man, why don't you get a dog? And you know, I like cats. I like what I like, but it's helped me bridge that gap, because it wasn't cool when I started. It wasn't cool for a guy to have a cat. It wasn't cool to volunteer or rescue cats. And then even in these communities, when I worked for the shelter, we would go in and we would all have on uniforms, and we would knock on the doors and tell people, hey, we'll fix your cat, we'll fix your dog, we'll do this. But we didn't look like the people in the community. I did, but I was the only one. And it was, people were afraid. And I would let everybody leave, and I would come back in regular clothes, and I saw that people would respond to me differently because I looked like them, I sounded like them. So it was easier to educate. Into what a lot of what Mary Lou was just saying is that that's the in reach. A lot of times you need to pull people that's in the community to help deliver that message. So a lot of what I've been doing is trying to get bring about more diversity, and that in reach with CARE is to pull more people that's doing it, because we don't see it a lot. We don't see a lot of people that look like me that's out doing the work. So a lot of what I'm doing is that, creating diversity in animal welfare and rescue. Where I'm on my way to Greece to do a rescue road trip coming up soon, and I'm hoping this is well, I'm not going to say hope. I'm going to say this will be the first of many trips worldwide to spread the word about TNR, community cat care, but not just animals, but people and animal welfare as a whole. Like, all together, I feel like music and animals are two things that can bring people together. It's two things that I've always been into. So I'm hoping with that to do more and spread the word, spread some positive energy for the animals and the people, and let folks know you can be yourself. You can be a Black guy in cat rescue. You can paint your nails. You can be a little weird. It's all good. We need you. We need everybody involved.
That's right. I'm seeing a lot of comments in the chat from my colleague, Carol, who said exactly what I wanted to say, which is, I'm also a cat person. I want to come.
Yeah. I see my
Great.
buddy Cassie in the comments too. Hey, Cassie. She's out in Canada doing kitten rescue.
Nice. I love this community. And I think, you know, it's obviously the time in our work in human services and animal welfare to start looking at, you know, inclusivity, diversity, and really just how we connect together over the things that we care about. And recognize that, we're all part of the solution and we're better together. I wonder if Christy's on. I just stole her line. Better Together Forever is one of our partners. So each of you have either fought against a lot of odds when it comes to being recognized as a leader for doing work in your community, or as an ally in making space for leaders from impacted communities. What and who has helped you in your journey? And conversely, what's been an obstacle to being seen and treated as a leader?
I could probably go on forever about that. That's because I always use the example of like Eminem coming to rap or Tiger Woods going to golf. If you're in a situation and everybody doesn't look like you, it's harder to know it's real. Like I come from hip hop and rap. So when we first saw Eminem, it was like, oh, nah, this guy's not real. This isn't, like, who is he to rap about this stuff? How do I know? But, he's a good rapper. He's good for the culture. And a lot of that, and the same thing with Tiger Woods, the same thing for me. Being a tattooed black bald guy, painting his nails, and I'm rescuing cats. It's like, what? People don't, are you really here for the cats? Do you really care? We don't typically see you. So a lot of times we fear what we don't know. And I think that's been the main challenge, is people trying to understand if I'm really about cats. Do you really like the cats? Like at first I just went out rescuing a ton of cats. And then it was like, I need to make videos of just me holding a cat to show that I like cats. Cause I think people don't know that I actually love cats and I do this for real. So I'm not just running around with traps trying to catch them. Like I cuddle with them too. So a lot of my challenges, I think, is just to get rid of all the negative stereotypes that may come with someone that looks like me and be respected as somebody that is animal rescue. So that's been one of the tough things. I can only imagine what the ladies here, what they'd have been through. I know it's similar, but I can definitely say that's been one of the toughest ones, is proving or feeling the need to prove that I really do this, and in hopes of people that look like me after me have a chance because of what I do. So that's been one of the tougher things for me, and one of the challenges of people believing in any neighborhood, wherever I go, that what I'm doing is actually real and I love it.
I'll chime in on that. So, in my community and greater Los Angeles area, I've actually built steps to become a leader through advocacy work. Because when I got housed and there were still people out there, my friends, and they were dying on the streets with their animals next to them even, I had like a survivor's guilt. And there was something in my heart saying, well, you can't just always keep bringing people home because you're going to get evicted for it. You're going to get in trouble again. So what do? You advocate. So I go out and I advocate, and I am a strong force out there. People got to know me out there. They know my story. They remember me with my dog. By the way, my dog, his name was WB Gunner. The AKA is a wiggle butt. But he was the sweetest thing in the world. I advocated for him through me being in jail and working out payment plans, because when I got out of jail, I owed the Humane Society money, and it was for stupid stuff, like I had tickets for riding the train without a ticket. So you get a ticket. Now you got a ticket. but and also for drug possession. I won't lie, I didn't go in and out of jail. But when you're homeless out there, the police, they ride you. They are on you. They don't care if you got a dog, and they will laugh in your face. Ha ha ha. Well, I guess your dog's going to the pound because you're going to jail. And it's so, experiencing that kind of cruelty emotionally, it makes it it makes it my desire and my best part of me to get out there and fight for the people who are still going through that sad cruelty. It's just not fair. So I think and the thing that kept me back was a lot of people when I first started working where I work. I'm not a high school graduate, and there are people who went to college and they owe a lot of college loans. And so at first I had this feeling that I'm working and I'm not making as much money as they are, but I'm an equal, and I had a hard time sometimes, but my agency fixed that really fast. They didn't let that fly at all. But I think it was a lot of just my guilt. So guilt is a driver for me. So that's, it's good guilt, and it's good guilt.
Yeah, and I'll chime in. I think for me, in all honesty, it was hard, being the only or one of very few BIPOC trying to do this work here in Minnesota. Often kind of like getting overlooked, or like, just things that, honestly, like sometimes I can't even put words to it, because, I know my nervous system, like when I am in BIPOC spaces, my nervous system just relaxes. Like it just relaxes. When I am in mixed spaces or predominantly white spaces, my nervous system is on alert. It's like, then, kind of like adapting or adjusting or, code switching, like to adapt. And I remember in my early years working with one of the tribal nations here, I had started a nonprofit, and in that nonprofit, there was an altercation at one of the clinics that we were having up there in the very, very early, probably within the first year and a half. And I didn't know what was going on, but I was just alerted, you better go out there. You better go out there. And, there was a tribal member who is now a dear friend of mine who was really mad. Like I had no idea. I won't go into the details of the story, but it was a white person that had treated her in such a way, and she couldn't even get her pet back that she wanted. Since I had been under the leadership of that organization, I said to her, I am so sorry. I said, it is my responsibility, to ensure that every person that comes up here, knows, like what is appropriate in terms of, I had no idea who that person was, it wasn't even actually a volunteer, but it didn't matter. I just said to her, I'm so sorry, and I just said, please tell me, what's going on. And at that moment, I took a deep breath. She took a deep breath. And it came out like this anger, fury, everything just came out. And, I said, it is, I need to ensure that they follow, a code. And she said, it is not the organization. She says, I don't care about the organization. You do not need to teach them. And she said, this organization, she said, what you need to do is you need to teach them. And this one actually caught me off guard. She said, you need to ask them, what would MARILOU do? She said, what would MARILOU do? She said, I have been watching you for 2 years. It's not the organization. You have a moral compass. So whether or not the organization you will live by, and that's become my North Star, my dog, spirit dog Anang, who passed away, which means star in Ojibwe-Moan. Like, what is my North Star? Regardless of an organization, regardless of whatever. And so that my alignment is with the community, first and foremost, period. And I think, not to an organization. And CARE is the first and only organization I can tell you gets it, which is why, but this is hard work because we're so few in this space. I have very few trusted allies in this space. One of them is the University of Minnesota Vet School, has been a phenomenal partner, love them to death. They've been doing the same thing in terms of building that trust. So I just, it's hard work, but it's just like with my friends within the community, it's like, we're doing the work, and I honestly don't give a whatever you want to call it. I don't say any bad words, right? But it's just like, yeah, certainly like, right. Just like, and then meeting like Sterling and getting to work with Sterling. I'm bringing him to Minnesota, not in winter. He's coming in the summer, but he's going to come here too. And he's going to be, this is exactly like what of my friends in some of these nations are saying. It would be great. Our children here, our people here don't even know what's possible. It's not even a career. Like if you love animals, we don't even know what we can do, And so when I told him about Sterling, I said, please bring Sterling here. I said, working on it.
I'm coming.
I can't be Greece, but yeah.
I'm definitely coming. I wanted to, if I could, I wanted to take a second I'm working on something right now with Smush, the cat. Smush is a famous cat. Smudge Lord is another famous internet cat. Colon Marmalade, a lot of big accounts. We're in the process right now putting a fundraiser together for homeless animals in Ukraine that's going through the situation. Please, if y'all can, stay tuned to my Instagram account, Smudge's Instagram account, Smush. A lot of those big accounts, we're going to be posting something soon. Like they're messaging me right now about it as we speak. So we'll be posting about it soon. But I wanted to put that out there before I forget, because we got animals that need help out there as well. So I just want to say that.
Thanks, Sterling. Appreciate it. I just love this whole thing. I really want this session to go on forever. Not because I'm moderating, just because I want to listen to you all, and because I just feel, this really embodies kind of, everything that My Dog Is My Home team, has been thinking about and trying to work on in terms of, the collective impact and, proximate leadership, understanding that, we can't do this work, on our own, that sectors have to come together, and also without the community, without the leadership of the community, and recognizing how important that piece is. And I just so appreciate you all highlighting those things. There's been so much stuff in the chat. I've not been able to get all of it, but a lot of folks really, sending so much, kudos for the idea of raising the issue of animal welfare and BIPOC communities and the representation. So important and so grateful. So I want to ask if I want to open it up for questions. We have, 10 more minutes to see if anybody in the audience would like to ask questions of our guests. And we'll give it a couple minutes to let people put their thoughts together. So PetSmart Charities wants to know how we can support your organizations, but I'm sure I can, at a minimum, tell you that we're dropping links in the chats to all their organizations. So definitely there. And, Sterling has Instagram accounts and all kinds of stuff all over the place, but definitely go. And if there's other things that you guys want to point out.
Definitely CARE. CARE is the best place. Most of the work that I'm doing, most of the stuff I'm doing relates back to CARE. So yeah, if you all could please follow, support CARE. A lot of the work that we're doing is going through there. And shout out to Jen and James. Hey y'all, not sure if they here watching.
Yeah, I just want to say that I didn't know about CARE until this conference, and all you folks that have been bringing in about the, issue around BIPOC and animal welfare, you really need to, oh, look, there's Ziggy with Dorothy. But you need to go to CARE. CARE is like a perfect, just the perfect place that you want to be to see all the things that you're wanting to talk about. Okay, I'm going to ask you all while we're waiting for folks to chime in with any questions, to tell me what allyship means to you. And Sterling, you're unmuted, so you may as well go first. I want everybody to answer the question.
Oh, well, for me, it's understanding. I would have to say understanding and communication. As far as ally, I mean, I think it starts with that, like what MARILOU was saying before. We go and we can tell people this, you need this, or you do that. I think the first step is actually communicating, listening, and understanding. That's what I would need and want from an ally. And that's the type of ally that I try to be in anything that I'm doing as well. So I would say in my space is to listen, understand, and acknowledge. Me and James from CARE talked about this before, and I think an acknowledgement of what is happening is a big deal too. And I would want that from an ally, is to acknowledge that I am going through something. What we're talking about isn't just a myth or something just being thrown out there. It's real. So acknowledgement, communication, understanding. I think those are the main things that I would want from an ally, and I would think it would be important.
And I'll go next. And I actually saw, which will probably tie directly to my response, Christine posted something on the chat. I think for me, number one, you don't get to say whether you're an ally. That's the first thing that I would say, right? You don't get to say I'm an ally. Because I've had many well-intentioned people, white people, who have said that they're an ally and yet have caused tremendous harm. It's like you don't get to say that. In the same way, like as I'm working with Indigenous communities, I don't say like, they get to tell me, if I'm an ally, if I'm a friend, if I'm a partner. And I think so much of this, one of the other organizations I'm a part of, along with CARE, is Deep Listening for Social Change, which formed after the murder of George Floyd, out of a couple mindfulness communities here in the Twin Cities. And so much of this is we have to do our own work, our own inner reflection, our own practices. We are what we practice. And so I have, it is one of the things that also has kept me sober, has saved my life, is I do have a daily mindfulness meditation practice. I'm a somatic coach, believe that, and part of it is how do we listen? How do we really listening? And deep listening is more than, it's not just active listening. It's how do we listen also what's happening inside of us, our own triggers. How do we make room so that everyone has a voice? How do we listen to what's not said? We're taught more often how to talk and how to speak. And somebody asks you a question, you're busy trying to formulate what your answer is, and we're not listening. So that was actually one of the things in my early years, also working with tribal communities, where elders told me about deep listening. And I think that in order for us to do this work, there is no separation. We are one. We are one. Our environment, animals, humans, we are all connected. What I do here in terms of this lifetime, next lifetime, wherever you are in Greece or wherever you are, we're all connected. And I think that those who want to really move towards being a true ally, you have to be willing to do the hard work. Racial equity work is not easy. It's not my job to ensure that you're comfortable. If I make you uncomfortable, if you get uncomfortable, stay with it. Be humble, learn from it. And with that, I'm going to pause because I could go on and on.
If you feel uncomfortable, that's growing pains.
Exactly. Right.
Right.
Exactly. Amen.
Go ahead. I have a question for Dorothy. Being someone who has experienced homelessness with their companion animal, and now being someone who's housed and holds a leadership position within a large supportive housing organization, how do you think homeless services can better serve people experiencing homelessness with animals?
Support, of course. With me, with Gunner and I, there was nowhere that I would ever go without him. And so when I got my job, I could even take my dog to work with me. So I think that that's, to always make it a pet friendly environment, wherever you, if you have a leadership position in a job, that, like my bosses, they don't mind if I take my dog to work with me, as long as he doesn't go after anybody and he's a good boy. I think that the biggest thing when you're homeless is getting your dog's medical care. Is so difficult out there when you don't have any money and transportation. It's just, it all adds up. It's kind of overwhelming. I was in front of 7-Eleven panhandling, and this guy came out and asked me if Gunner had had his shots, and I said no. And after he handed me $26, he told me, if you can get your dog to my vet, I'll pay for his shots. And I thought that was the greatest thing out there that anybody did. And so when and in the meantime, I got housed. And the day after my birthday, I took Gunner out to Eagle Rock Veterinary Clinic, and I told him what his name was. And they said, oh, he never called, but they called him. So when I went and I picked Gunner up, they had his nails done. They had a big blue bow on him. They just gave him the treatment, and I looked for that guy, trying to thank him. But I think that it's important, to offer vaccinations for their dogs, because when you're out there, your dog can get taken if you don't have them. If your dog's, even if you don't have an address, you still have to have a registration on your dog, even if you don't have an address. So when I got, so that taught me a lot about caring for myself as well, my own medical needs, learning my dog's medical needs and following through. And then it's like, wow, if I can do this for him, why don't I do it for myself? So I started actually making my appointments because of that.
Nice. Thanks, Dorothy. This is a question for Sterling. How did you start your advocacy as a fellow person of color, and where did the Trapking name come from?
Well, it was getting started was crazy for me, because I've done music my whole life. So I wasn't doing animal rescue or anything. I was a vegetarian, and I had cats, loved cats all my life, but I never knew about TNR rescue or none of that. So I was in between music tours looking for something to do. That's how I got started. And I just started working with an animal rescue in the shelter. And as time went on and I learned more about it, I saw that the focus seemed to be more so on upper class and bully breed dogs versus lower class and cats. I love all animals and I want to help all, but at that time I wanted to focus on lower class and cats. So that's where Trapking started. And if you listen to rap music or anything like that, Trap King and Trap Queen are two overly used terms in this culture. So I knew I could, by using Trap King and Trap Queen, those words, that I could get the attention of the demographics that I wanted to reach, because we glorified in hip hop where I come from. We glorified in the hoods that I lived in. So I knew Trap King and Trap Queen would be like, bam, you got to ask me about this. So that was the whole point in doing Trap King. And I hope that answers the question.
I just want to say real fast that's so perfect, because somebody asked me about Trap King. you mean Trap Queen? I go, no, Trap King. And so he goes, you know, the Trap King song, you know, the music. And I'm like, no. He's like, and it's perfect.
All coming together now.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
it's like an epiphany.
So it looks like so many people in the chat, Sterling, want to know when you can visit their location. So can you maybe just tell us what your general plans are
Oh,
besides going to Greece?
I'm coming. Anybody that's in the chats want me to come. I am in. Y'all may not be able to see it, but I live in my RV. Like literally, I don't have a personal car. I don't have a personal place. I live in this RV. All I do is travel around. So whatever city, whatever state it is, I'm coming. I mean, I'm coming. I have every intent on coming. I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna rescue cats. I'm hugging everybody. I'm coming. Like I'm gonna spread this love and spread this message till it kills me. So I'm coming everywhere. Anybody, whatever city, state, country. I just mentioned Greece because that's one that's coming up soon, but I'm not stopping. So I will be there.
Yeah, I love that. So there's a lot of extra labor that proximate leaders have to carry, whether that be fighting for legitimacy in the eyes of conventional leaders, or fighting for opportunities that might not come as easily to you, or dealing with numerous other types of oppression while also trying to carry out a mission. How do you combat fatigue or even anger at all of the extra burden to continue to work, lead, and inspire?
For me, I try to keep everything fun. Like everybody, all the women that trained me, I saw them go until they hit the wall. Like they wasn't really doing anything else. So I try to do other things. I try to, like, as far as unity, I promote unity, working together, trying to make friends. Because a lot of the compassion fatigue and burnout that comes in what we do, it doesn't come from the animals or the lack of resources to help the animals. It comes from what we do and don't say to one another, or what we, don't do to help one another. So I try to help build those relationships. That's why I'm always doing funny, silly stuff on Instagram with cats. That I do. We have tabby dates. I started a tabby dating services for. It's called tabby dates for people that love cats. So cat lovers trying to meet other cat lovers. You got tabby dates. So I try to do stuff like just fun things that keep you motivated and inspired as well. Because we go, we walk around and do that so much. It's like, oh my goodness, I fed 3 colonies today. We euthanized 2 cats. Everything is so sad. It's so tough. It's so bad. And we always pull the heartstrings and acknowledge the tough stuff. And I think you got to acknowledge the happy stuff. You got to highlight the good, and you got to be able to laugh and have fun. So that's one of the things that I do. A lot of times I try to add music or comedy to what we do in cat rescue, animal welfare, and service, period. Because I have a little sister that's she's a counselor. And so a lot of, even with her, if you live and you work in service, a lot of that stuff plays you. So my main thing is to keep it fun, keep smiling. Don't forget why you started volunteering, and this selfless nature. This is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to make you feel good. So you should want to come in and high five and hug. I think if you keep that, you keep that, that'll be fine. And don't feel bad about crying. I used to feel bad because all the ladies everybody seemed so much tougher than me. And I'm in something happened, and I'm in the corner like, and I'm crying, and everybody else is much tougher. And they like, Sterling, that's okay. You need to toughen up a little bit, but the fact that you're crying means you still feel, you still care, and you have to continue to feel that. You got to have the feel. So don't feel bad about having all the feels and crying like me, but make sure you do the stuff that's fun, like have fun, high five, hugs, and compliment like compliment like you would want to receive it, you know, let somebody know that they're doing a good job and you appreciate it. I think those things are, that's how I do it.
Thanks, Sterling. MARILOU?
I just, you know, I couldn't imagine my life being anything other than what it is. Honestly, my heart is incredibly full of gratitude for everyone and everything in my life. And but I also believe that my life is guided by spirit. Like it's not even my doing anymore. It's just my job is to listen to where I'm supposed to go. You know, there's just so many beautiful, amazing things that are happening in the communities that as I'm continuing to build and deepen relationships. And, you know, I just, you know, I just want to say, because I want to name their names, because they're the ones that are really, you know, the Awanooks, the Cassies, the Monties, the Rorys, you know, in these tribal communities, they're the ones in my mind that are making this work for me what it is. And, you know, when somebody does things, yeah, does it trigger me? And it brings up stuff, yeah, but that's the work I'm doing. And so what it ends up doing is just like, oh, okay, that now it's just like I said, when it's like a fly, I just need to swat it off, you know, just swat it off now, move on. And I actually have that visual when there's something that really, and I feel, allow it, acknowledge it, that it triggered me, you know, and then it's a choice, because everything is a choice. And I say, okay, now we're going to move you on. Now you're like this fly. You're really just bugging me. You're really irritating. I'm just going to swat you off. And then return back to what keeps me alive and, you know, makes me feel so alive and joyful.
Wow.
MARILOU, my buddy Cassie that sit here just was saying, like, we're going to need a book. We're going to need a book of MARILOU quotes after this. But like the fly, like all of them, be like a bamboo. Like this is like,
Hey, feel free to use it, Sterling. We could be like a teacher, be like a bamboo.
right,
Seriously, we can go around care stuff now.
right. I'm just over here taking notes like, oh my goodness, another one. Swatted like a fly.
Really, really amazing and really positive, you know, just incredibly positive. Oops. Damn it. I knew something like that was going to happen today. Really, really positive reflections on how to stay, you know, in a space that can be incredibly difficult. So I have one for Sterling and MARILOU. Well, thank you for sharing your story. Sterling, I follow you in social media. I love your work. As a person of color, I love your mission and advocacy. There is a stigma that people of color are not capable of taking care of pets. There is a stigma that we will harm our pets. My question is, how can we educate the youth and others about animal welfare? Thank you.
That's one of the things, that's what I'm trying to do. And I have we're doing a podcast too called Same Team to help bring people together, smush some of the beef, some of the arguments that go along. And one of the things that I was just saying recently on there is the approach. The approach means so much. So a lot of, and I have people that are asked the question, what can I do? Like, if I want to do something to help the community and I'm not a Black person, I'm not BIPOC, one of the things that we can do, the main thing for all of that, is how we work together. So if we want the children and different people to be engaged in what we do, we have to get along with one another. We have to make this look appealing. We have to make it look fun and rewarding. And with that, that approach right there will help a lot, because right now, again, like I was saying, a lot of stuff that we do, we pull the heartstrings, or it looks tough, it looks difficult. And then we're overly critical of one another at times. So I would say one of the main things is to get along and be more helpful, is just give that off. That approach right there is going to get more people involved and wanting to be involved and inspired. That, and again, listen, like what MARILOU was saying, when I go in a lot of communities, when I did the thing where I went in with my organization in uniforms, and then I went in by myself, that was one of the things that I was told, that, hey, you know, people come in here and they say they compassionate, but you step around the little kids selling waters to feed their family and you see injuries and all other type of issues, but and you walk right around that and go straight to the pet. So I would say just be willing to listen. Just be willing to listen. And because we animal people, and I know I'm the same way. I'm coming in straight for the animals. I'm not even thinking about nothing else. But we usually use that statement. I'm an animal person, not a people person. But in order to heal it all, we're gonna have to be people, animal people. We're gonna have to be compassionate humans. So can't just like one aspect of it, you know, be able to listen and love all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was great, Sterling. I would just add, I go back to then I said, like, who's telling the story? You know, like, who's telling the story? You know, the stigma that the stereotypes around BIPOC not being able to care. Who's telling the story?
Right.
You know, because I will bet you,
Yep.
not a BIPOC person telling the story. You know, so who's telling the story? And that's why with CARE, in terms of the narratives, in terms of amplifying the stories, taking the time to listen, you know, I think that is critical. So my ask, I guess, for those who are on the, you know, for non-BIPOCs is, you know, before you get ready to throw a story out there or think you're like, you know, doing this, really ask yourself, you know, who has had a chance to, who's telling this story? You know, do you have the voice of the community?
Yeah.
You know, because I will tell you the narrative will be so different. Is there neglect? And it's everywhere. It doesn't matter, you know, but then why is it that we highlight the certain things to, you know, to profile and show a people? I see a picture now, honestly, like I did this with a group of, you know, people, a homeless person with a dog. Like, what was the emotion? I actually asked what came up for you. For them, there was like this pity, like all these things. I see that picture. I see love. I see love. And I think about the incredible love. And I said, when I was with a foster-based rescue and the adoption, like, I would much rather adopt a pet to a homeless person than someone who's got this big fancy house with white couches and more concerned about the fur that's going to be on there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's our experiences and taking the time to listen and hear the stories. But, you know, going back to, you know, that's going to be another t-shirt, Sterling. Who's telling the story? Who's telling the story?
Yeah. And I want that t-shirt too. And I want it for my program because it's exactly the same thing. And I just feel, I love everything you've said. I feel like we could just sit here and talk all day. I would love to do that. And I think we're running out of time. So I want to thank you all, Dorothy, MARILOU, and Sterling, again, for your leadership, your allyship, and opening our hearts and minds during this important discussion. And thank you to the audience for staying engaged with us. We're about to go on a 15-minute break. But before I send you all off, I think all of we're saving the chats too, so we'll be able to, you know, direct you or answer questions if you have stuff coming up. But gosh, this was just so fantastic, and you guys are amazing, all of the work that you're doing. So before we send you all off, we're going to do another quick raffle.